Hey, you running?
Hey,
Hey, dude, how you doing?
pretty good, pretty good.
Good stuff. Um, yeah, what's going on?
Not much. Been trying to review a sampling PR, the sampler PR.
Hmm.
That's about it.
Um, yeah, are those supposed to go in the instrumentation libraries, or is it supposed to be done elsewhere?
What the
The samplers.
yeah, they're supposed to be in the SDK. That's what
Gotcha. But the instrumentation libraries are supposed to accept a sampler.
Oh, except the that yeah. Uh, so since a sampler can be passed to starting a trace, yes, in a way.
Okay.
uh, I don't know that the spec actually specifies integrations are supposed to, or instrumented libraries are required to, but I mean, maybe it should, but yeah, it's
Okay.
understandable too.
Yeah, I saw the PRs and I was like, I'm gonna be lost on where this is located on for the instrumentation libraries.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, on the propagation, the so the original issue was I'm trying to write a propagator for AMQP,
Okay.
and like as things are kind of constructed right now, I don't see the path forward outside of like calling a separate propagator entirely and just saying inject on that. um
I mean, you want it to be a text map propagator?
yeah, it'll need to be a text map propagator. And then the problem with the rabbit, I guess not a problem, but a thing with the rabbit um properties is that the headers are all tuples with the value type in the middle. So basically, like what we've been ad hoc doing at work is basically we run a text map inject on an empty array. So just like normal headers,
Mhm.
or pass in whatever headers that you want that you're going to be using that are already in the rabbit format. Those come in and then basically do an inject, text map inject of against just an empty array. And then we then loop through those and say like, these are each long string, and then append it to the other ones. And on the other side, then you extract the trace headers off of there,
Yeah.
undo that, unbox that, and then run it through the extracts. And so like it's just super clunky. And then that was where the baggage part was coming into, because like then it's like also adding in the baggage piece.
Mhm.
So that's why I was going back to looking at the stuff and it's just being like, oh, you can just pass in what the carrier, so I guess an array in this point,
Mhm.
or a list, and then it would take that, just a blank context or a top level context object, and then it could decide what it needs from that. So like the Go implementations and all that stuff have like a top level context and then span context under it and baggage context under it.
Mhm.
And so it can just be chained together, and each one can just say like, I want the span part or I want the baggage part. So like if I was to write like an AMQP propagator, like it's like really unclear, like an easy simple path forward to like, here's a single propagator, and it just takes a text map and is able to inject the things it needs to inject.
You wanted to inject baggage and span context?
Yeah, if they've configured it, it should just come out with all the headers it needs.
All right. Yeah, I mean, you can, there's two ways, and you could write two propagators like how the
Right.
HTTP ones are done, or just write one. There's just helpers right now that accept the context key to build the propagator for you, but you can do it yourself without the helpers, and then you can pull from the context manually yourself. You don't have to. So it just, I mean, it just has the context like the Go one, but there are helpers that let you say this one's a span context propagator.
Okay. I guess I just wasn't seeing where that was.
Yeah, I can point you to that after this, because yeah, it's again kind of bounces around. It's annoying. I think propagator, the behavior needs to change, or
That's where I was getting lost too, was just that like my understanding was like 100% of this was meant to be in the API. And then like the lack of helpers and whatever, like just like if it's past a context that it works. Versus like it's a PDIC implementation or something. I guess that's
Mhm.
where I was getting like super lost, because I was like, oh, we have tests in here to like inject and extract the W3C trace headers, but not baggage. And then that led to like, oh, I guess I should write a baggage test in here. And then it's like, oh, that doesn't work. And because yeah, it also said like on the propagators that everything is supposed to take like an inject and extract function. And it just said like basically baggage and spans, there was no difference between them. Like they're just contexts in general.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, that's basically how it works. This just right now, the way it was done is the context module has this helper that takes the key you want to pull out of the context, and that's not required to be used, but yeah, it exists just because otherwise the span context ones, it would just be duplicate code to write that in each one, pulling it out, putting it back in. So I abstracted it, but yeah, I can see the
okay.
confusion.
Okay. That makes more sense then. Is that like supposed to, I guess, approximate the getter setter functions that they have listed in there?
It uses it. I mean, the context
Okay.
has a getter and a setter, and then
Well, it was saying like for the propagators, like you could pass the context and then additionally pass like a getter setter function or something, which would,
for updating the list.
I guess, I think so. I'm not sure. It's
Sounds like that's changed. I'll have to look at it because the with the I mean, and maybe that's a more general one than the text map, because the text map is I would think is just the text map, and you don't have multiple ways to update it, but maybe that changed.
yeah, it says like text map propagator performs injection instruction, blah blah blah. Getter and setter are optional helper components used for extraction and injection, respectively, defined as separate objects from the carrier to avoid runtime allocations by removing the need for additional interface implementing objects wrapping the carrier in order to access its contents.
Okay, so it is for the carrier. So
Yeah, it looks like it.
I guess certainly could have something like that. Text map. I wonder if that means for a generic propagator, because text map is just a map of text. So I don't think we should need a getter and setter there, but maybe I guess it would make the. Oh wait, no, that wouldn't work because that would have to be outside of the propagator themselves, because those are those just act like you couldn't have a Rabbit AMQP propagator that does its type of headers combined with the W3C propagator that does other type of headers. So
Right, exactly.
that has to be something higher level on the propagator itself, like whether it's a text map propagator or a binary propagator or a whatever. I'm guessing I'll have to look at that spec again.
Yeah, that part, the thing that was getting me before was that the composite propagator part, where it was like these cross-cutting concerns can all be put together. And then under global, it was basically saying like platforms like .NET may be pre-configured out of the box propagators. If pre-configured, it should default to a composite propagator containing the W3C trace context and baggage propagators.
Does ours default to that right now?
Well, it's not a composite, it just, the default configuration is listed as those. So like I think that was the thing that I was getting tripped on too, is like, we have like the setup and like the thing that you have now for like with the aggregator of the propagators, that is essentially like what the innards of the composite propagator would do, but without the actual interface for it. So like, because there's supposed to be like a composite propagator with like a create function and get set.
Gotcha. Yeah, for those languages like Java, probably Go, that aren't as expressive, so they have an explicit composite propagator because they can't just give a list of propagators like we can in Erlang. There's not really a need for a composite propagator module.
I think it was more like for the purposes of like, not like if somebody wants to say like, just here's a W3C propagator, HTTP propagator, and like, because then the global propagator is also supposed to accept like just a context object.
Right.
And then each propagator within does the things it needs with it.
Right. They do. That's how it works. But you just give a list of those. And
right. I guess it's just like we don't have like the explicit concept of
a composite
propagators. And
yeah, because it's just a list.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just like all those little things like where it strays a little bit, and then it's just kind of like, it's like, well, we have it, but it doesn't match the spec in a way.
Right.
And then it gets like confusing as to like what is actually happening in each place.
Yeah. Should definitely,
yeah.
Be
like I said before, man, it wasn't to like
I know.
dump on it. It was just really hard to follow along.
It definitely, I see where it's confusing, and what need docs in the module that says like, because it would be verbose and unidiomatic if we added some of that stuff. So it would be, there needs to be docs in there that's like, in the spec there's a composite propagator. We don't have an explicit module for that because yada yada yada.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, but so I guess with the AMQP, there's basically, because there is essentially a singleton text map propagator. It seems like if you wanted to propagate a text map in any other format or with any other set of propagators within it, like if somebody wanted to only send trace context without trace state, let's say, or they only wanted to send that without the baggage, whatever. Like
Yeah.
if you, as soon as you set it up, it's kind of like this is set in stone.
Oh, no.
Because it's, well, because when you call text map extract, it's just, or inject, like it's just grabbing the propagators that are globally configured. This isn't like a fault on our implementation. I'm just like saying that
Oh,
in
you want
general.
you mean you want it different? You want to be able to use different from the global. You don't want to set those to be the global. Like you don't
Right,
want
because they're
to
gonna, the format's gonna be completely different, right?
I got you. I got you. I got
Because you're gonna end up with, in a normal one with HTTP, you end up
Yeah.
with normal key value pairs. And for AMQP, you instead need
Okay.
these tuples of,
Yeah, I think the issue there is you would have to have, so if you need
I think you're just
the,
gonna have to call it explicitly and just say like
well, you need to not use the,
inject.
right, you need to not use the text map. If you don't want, if you need different results from the propagator, then the two tuple list, you can't, you either can't use the text map, inject and extract. You have to create a new version of that, just like with binary is going to be done, or you have to take what they give you and convert it after the fact. But yeah, text map propagator, it's going to be those two tuples and a list of them. So yeah, I think the oddity there is going to be you have to create a separate type of propagator, which is not really a good idea because you want the user to be able to say they want trace context and baggage sent in their propagation, even if AMQP is being used. So I think the best bet would be having to convert it after you inject or call the inject and you get the headers back and then you have to convert it. I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was gonna do, was to have them pass. So basically just create the propagator like normal, but, and it accepts a normal text map.
Mm.
But then, well, I mean, that's kind of the challenging part. Like it could attack, it could take a text map and then essentially like, or it doesn't necessarily have to be in text map format. It could be as well. It could also be like in the normal AMQP header format with the list, but we just ignore, because all we're doing is adding to it on inject and extract. So like the thing that I have now, like basically like you can inject with the normal HTTP headers before or after, and it just loops through all of them and just says like, it just pattern matches. Like if this is a 2
Mhm.
arity tuple, then go ahead and add long string in the middle, and then
Yeah.
it just returns it. So, and it'd be the same with the extraction, whatever. Like we're just looking for those particular
Mhm.
things in the first position and then extracting the state from it. So the innards of like the hack, it's basically just to try and wrap it up into one thing though,
Yeah.
so that like it's not like, oh, you got to inject trace context with the special thing and now you got to do baggage as well. Like I want people to be able to say like, have like a composite version, right, where it's just like I want all of the W3C headers into to be injected, whatever. Especially because they have to call it explicitly.
Well, I mean, I think
Otherwise, it's a two-step process.
the
I guess
user
that's what I'm
should,
getting at. Yeah.
the user shouldn't have to call it explicitly. I mean, they might have to call something, but
Well, they would in this case
Right.
because it can't really go through the normal text map propagator and it's not going through the global part.
Why not? Why can't it go through the global part if you're converting after it injects?
Oh no, I guess you're right. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, you would need some function in your library that does that conversion that the user has to call
Yeah.
instead
Yeah.
of
No, you're
inject.
right. You're right. It's early. Okay. Okay, I'm probably just gonna continue down that path then of just, it'll be a little hacky. But I know people kind of need it. And it would be so that was like the thing I was trying to get up for the first contrib thing, so that
Oh, okay.
I've been pressing them, like everything is set now, except they did not give us admin rights on the repo.
Okay.
It's still set to maintain. So I've been pinging people, but like they're insanely slow to respond. So yeah, that's like the last thing that we need. So I had Carlos add me to the regular maintainers
Mhm.
and then set up the new team. And then yeah, we just need the admin rights so I can actually set CI up.
Okay, cool.
And that's why I've been asking all of them. I'm sure you've noticed, but I've been asking all the ones that have been contributing to the Open Telemetry Beam
Yeah.
work
yeah.
to sign the CLA, because I also don't want to have to like, I don't want to like import all the Git history, because it's going to be a gigantic pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna copy it in, but just make sure everybody signed everything.
Yep.
And then we can modify as we're bringing each repo in with updating the copyright, I guess.
Mhm.
Because yeah, it's like really confusing for that. The one thing I've noticed for the people that have, all these people that have jumped in like the last week and a half, is like they have like a lot of good intentions, but they don't know like the basic things. Like there is a spec and there are conventions and you have to adhere to them.
Yeah.
You can't add anything extra you want because you thought it was a good idea, or leave things out. So but then they're like publishing the package and it's just kind of like, oh man, I don't want people to like rely on this. But so I just want like them to be able to go to the contrib repo and just be like, you have to go through this gate, and
Yes.
we can tell you before you publish a package.
Uh,
In the namespace, there will be changes needed.
yes.
I think they're just not prepared. They just don't know that it exists.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Understandable, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, and it seems like pretty good at this point. Like everything's pretty locked at this point. But yeah, on the AMQP thing, like W3C has actually got an editor's draft, but it's for 1.0.
Oh,
So we're going to be kind of rogue regardless, because I guess like the 1.0 format has like 2 property sections in the message. There's like a properties and an application properties. But 09 doesn't really have that. Like I guess the equivalent of message properties are the headers, or part of the headers. And the application properties are the parts of the headers that are like, I guess like the like TTLs and things like that.
right.
So I guess in one they separated them. But so anyways, it's just gonna be kind of rogue. Like we're just gonna use headers, I guess, because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but AMQP always has the notion of headers, no matter whether it's Rabbit or anything else, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't
Okay.
really used it. I just know Kafka has headers, so that's what's going to be used there too. So it might be. It might be. No, I guess no. It won't be interchangeable since you have types in the headers and everything.
Yeah. I still haven't figured out quite why there are types. I would imagine it has something to do with broker like handling of it and like how they compose the frame sizes, but
yeah,
man, that's a monkey wrench. Who said strongly typed things are great? Oh man. Okay. All right, so that's all I have on my list right now is just basically I've been trying to get somebody on the technical committee to get that admin rights set up. Because we're still kind of blocked essentially from using the repo until that happens.
Yeah. Okay.
Because we can't set up any of the checks or anything.
Right.
You're supposed to be able to, but I guess like the way that our maintain is set up, permissions, it doesn't have the full set of maintain permissions that are supposed to be there according to GitHub. So,
Okay.
so yeah, like I was trying to get that up. I was gonna bring Phoenix in first.
Cool.
And then try to get the AMQP one in there because we need it at work. And then at that point, we would have at least some of the base paths set up and we can get the documentation in.
Yep.
Easy, CLA, all that stuff.
Yeah, and if it's not updated by next week, I can plan to make the maintainers meeting to bring it up, and someone will probably do it right then if I'm able to do that.
You're in person pestering and not just in Slack pestering.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess the only other things on the contrib repo that I wanted to ask you about were one is there's no way that I know of to grant approver status per sub project, I guess.
Oh, you can do that with a maintainers file.
So we can say that they have maintenance over this. Oh, you can do it over a directory, right?
Yeah, a directory.
Oh, okay, sweet. Okay, that'll solve that. And then do we want to, I guess one of the questions was on Hex publishing rights for anything that's in there.
Mhm.
Like, do we want to have them have to like give somebody they really need teams and Hex. Like,
Yeah.
this is I guess my concern is somebody contributes something, maybe it's a little bit more esoteric and it's not like a really popular library. That was one of the questions like that Dave had, was like, if it's a smaller library, like who all can put stuff in there?
Yeah.
Are you just gonna have everything in there, or
Do we have an OpenTelemetry org in Hex?
I don't know. Does that give you publish rights though?
I think so. I'll have to look. I don't remember.
That's like my only concern, is that we should be able to publish without that original author.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it should be a requirement, I guess, for getting added into contrib.
yeah, for sure.
Good.
It's for the good of the project that we're all. It's like, it shouldn't be about like people want to like race to get their name on something.
Right.
It's not quite while we're doing this. Okay, so that would take care of the permissions, and then yeah, if we get, that was the only thing, was we needed to go around. I was going around repo by repo just to see who all had contributed on the bridge ones to get them signed, and then we can move them over.
Good.
All right, sweet dude.
Cool.
So much fun.
Oh yeah.
It'd be sweet if it didn't like all just come crashing at once, like everybody wanting to help.
Yeah, that was interesting. Great to have help, but yeah, it came out of
Guys,
nowhere.
I got a day job too. There's but two of us to answer your question. Yeah, that's like why I'm like kind of like, can we get the contributor info up so I can at least tell them that there's a spec?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Uh,
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm gonna try to go get some breakfast before
all
the
right,
working
cool,
group.
cool.
All right. See you later.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.